The Chrisley family's quotes regarding Todd and Julie's sentences for fraud and prison. A gang that is close. The Chrisley family is supporting Todd and Julie Chrisley as they get ready to leave for prison after being found guilty of fraud. On November 21st, the Chrisley Knows Best cast members received sentences totaling 19 years in prison, of which Todd, 53, will serve 12 and Julie, 49, will serve 7. Both reality stars also must spend 16 months of probation. Despite the news, the couple is still optimistic about the future. Yesterday was a difficult day for the Chrisley family, but Todd and Julie are people of faith, and that faith gives them strength as they appeal their convictions, the couple's attorney exclusively told Us Weekly on November 22nd. Their trial was marred by serious and repeated errors, including the government lying to jurors about what taxes the couple paid. Based on these issues, we are optimistic about the road ahead. The USA Network personalities were indicted in 2019 on 12 counts of tax evasion, bank and wire fraud and conspiracy. Todd and Julie pleaded not guilty, claiming that their former employee Mark Braddock was to blame for allegedly exaggerating the couple's earnings to banks so they could borrow more than $30 million. A jury found the couple guilty in June and the pair took steps to appeal the verdict. A legal expert told us on November 22nd, however, that the growing up Chrisley stars may not have the easiest time with their appeal. I don't think this appeal has much chance of success, Nima Rahmani exclusively told us one day after Todd and Julie received their sentencing. I understand that they're blaming their former employee Mark, but there's tons of evidence of things that they did, including what they did for the grand jury, trying to obstruct justice. And the problem with an appeal is you really need to appeal some sort of legal error, a mistake that the judge made. It's very hard to appeal a question of fact a jury's finding. Todd and Julie share 3 children, daughter Savannah and sons Chase and Grayson. Todd is also the father of daughter Lindsay and son Kyle, whom he shares with ex-wife Teresa Terry. Todd is also the guardian of his granddaughter Chloe. Savannah, for her part, revealed during an episode of her Unlocked podcast that she had taken custody of Grayson and Chloe after the news of her parents' fate was announced. I come home Tuesday, and I have custody of a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old. And we spend our first Thanksgiving not as a family, she said on the November 21st episode of her podcast while reflecting on her new normal. I've never been away from my family for the holidays. Sign up for Us Weekly's free daily newsletter and never miss breaking news or exclusive stories about your favorite celebrities, TV shows and more. Keep reading to see what the Chrisley family has had to say about Julie and Todd going to prison. Todd and Julie Chrisley. While the couple received a combined sentence of 19 years in prison, they remain optimistic for the future and their faith gives them strength as they appeal their convictions. They later spoke out about their faith during a November 2022 podcast episode. Age is just a number, and since we don't know our death date, we have to live every day as if it's our last, Julie said during the November 30th, 2022 episode of the Chrisley Confessions podcast, reading a quote by author Priscilla Shirer. Todd, for his part, added, "Yesterday doesn't matter. Today is what we have. Tomorrow belongs to God, because we're not promised tomorrow," he said. What God calls us through, He will walk us through. During a January 2023 episode of the couple's podcast, Julie opened up about her biggest concerns heading into their respective sentences. "There is that possibility of my husband and I being separated," she said. "But there's a difference between my husband and I being separated for a period of time and having to say goodbye forever. It almost makes me feel ashamed that I'm even worried. I think it puts things into perspective for me because we all think our heart is the hardest thing. Last week was extremely difficult for my family as a whole and each of us individually," the reality star explained. "We kind of had to say goodbye to my parents for a little bit of time for the foreseeable future, and that was really, really, really tough. I haven't filmed a podcast since then. The podcast today was filmed prior to my life falling apart."